What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video here today. As you can probably tell just by looking at the screen here, I'm a bit high on Search for Azcanta as of late. I think it's a card that requires a lot of testing and a lot of different builds because the ceiling is so high. There is so much potential for a card like this to do well. I think it just needs to find the right shell. I tested in blue-white just now. It's been tested in Jeskai, it's been tested in Esper, all different kinds of builds. It has not been tested yet in Jeskai Saheeli, which is because most people aren't innovating. There's not a lot of people actually playing the deck other than me. There's a few online and things like that, but generally the Jeskai Saheeli community is relatively small compared to most other Jeskai decks or control decks or things like that. So I think it's probably up to me and a few others to do the hardcore testing here. The Search for Azcanta fit into a build like this? It's really hard to say. I'm not quite sure. So we do have a fair amount of creatures in the deck, which could make Search for Azcanta kind of a miss in certain cases. Like here, we have 4 Felidars, we have a Click, we have a Wall, we have 3 Snapcasters. What is that? That's 9 creatures. That's a fair amount. I could just count here. And then but we do have 29 non-creature spells. So nearly half of our deck is something that can be hit off of Search for Azcanta, which is why I think a card might fit in there. Especially because we're also a combo control deck. The thing with combo control is that sometimes you want to play the control role. Sometimes you want to combo as fast as possible. I think actually both sides of Search for Azcanta do that. So the Scry 1 on upkeep actually helps you dig for the combo as fast as possible. And then once you get into the kind of mid-game to late game, you can flip it and start getting card advantage in some of the more grindy matches. So Search for Azcanta, I think, has a home here. I tested it in a few games. It was pretty good, even in the more aggressive matchups, but ultimately it's not a card I would want to keep in game 2 or 3 against decks like Affinity, decks like Burn. So I think it's a great card, but it has its time and its place. And there's definitely a lot of times where you just don't want to see it at all. There are definitely times, so I actually cut a Wall of Omens to fit it in. And I can definitely imagine times where I'd rather have that Wall of Omens over that Search for Azcanta. You'll notice here that I'm also playing a Supreme Verdict. And the reason I'm doing that is because I think in a deck that taps out for 2 mana, quote-unquote, do nothing, having a way to clean up the board and regain some tempo is really important. We do have spot removal and the like, but it's not always enough to get there. So I do like that one Verdict in there, because sometimes Saheeli into Verdict is also just a great curve. Normally this would be P and Kieran Alar, but because we're playing Search for Azcanta, having a target that we can hit off of it is very, very important. Obviously, I didn't crunch any numbers, but I do think not only are sweepers well positioned right now, but I want to have more hits off of Search for Azcanta. Overall, I'm very biased. I do think Saheeli is one of the stronger Jeskai variants out there. It was far more powerful when the meta was a lot of Valakut and a lot of Etron. That has since died down, and so there is a bit more interaction in the format right now, in the form of either Thought Seizes or literally Galvanic Blast. Affinity is huge. What's great about the Affinity matchup is we have a decent percentage in that matchup as it is. We don't have the hard counter spells like Jeskai Control does. We have a bit fewer removal spells. We don't play Electrolyze, we don't play the full 3 or 4 Lightning Helix. But I believe we make up for that with our ability to just combo out and end the game quickly. We don't have to answer everything. We just have to prolong the game long enough to combo, maybe answer our opponent's 1 or 2 Galvanic Blasts somehow with Click or Dispel or Snap Dispel. So there's definitely, I think, a lot of ways for us to win that matchup. It can be a bit closer than maybe just standard Jeskai Control. But with that said, I think this deck, the combo finish allows you to win games that you never had any any option winning. You know, it's an out in so many cases, and I think it's incredibly useful for the modern format. It's an incredibly fast format that sometimes ends up in the grind, but ultimately, I feel in games of modern, you have the game not necessarily finished by turn 3 or 4, but the game is ultimately decided by turn 3 or 4. Someone has a major advantage of tempo, board presence, card advantage, and all this combination of stuff that you can kind of tell who's going to win by turn 3 or 4. And there's obviously, you know, exceptions to that, and I'm not saying that's like a hard and fast rule necessarily, but I do think Modern is a fast format, and you want to have the chance to have fast wins, which is also why Jeskai Control is moving towards Geist of St. Traps and the like, because sometimes your removal spells and your counter spells don't line up well against what your opponent is doing. So having this linear game plan that you can do regardless of what your opponent is doing, such as Saheeli plus Feldar, I think is so important, and it's why I'm really opting for that combo today. But that's the list you see today. Let's talk about some of the specific cards here that maybe I didn't cover yet. So we have 4 Path to Exile, 4 Bolt. These are the premium removal spells in the Jeskai colors. We have 4 Serum Visions because it's, I would say, much better than Opt, even in a deck like this. Lately I tested 3 to 4 Opts in Saheeli, and I just thought that there was a lot of air. While cantrips are great for consistency, this is still kind of the deck that wants to have enough space for important cards, like this one of Verdict, this one of Click, one of Wall of Omens, one of Helix. These are all actually very important cards for very specific matchups. So having those 3 to 4 Ops means I have to cut some of those cards, or I have to cut Search for Azcanta. Ultimately, I don't think that the quote-unquote consistency that Opt provides outweighs the opportunity to actually have cards in your deck. Opt is not free. It takes up deck building space. So I think that's something that a lot of people forget when they see cantrips like that. Think, oh, I can run 4 Serum Visions, 4 Opt. Well, sure, if your deck is incredibly dedicated, like Storm, where it has one singular game plan, then all these cantrips are fantastic. However, when you're a deck like us, where you're also a control deck, you need to fit room to attack different decks from different angles. You can't afford to run all these different cantrips. I'm not going to say that you can't run some combinations of Serum Visions and Opt. You can definitely find the room, and it might be optimal. However, 4 and 4 is definitely incorrect. And so right now I'm opting for 4 and 0. So 4 Serum Visions, 0 Opt. Is it correct? I don't know, but that's what we're doing today. We're testing, and we're going to see how well that works out. We have this one of Dispel. I think it's a great tool against interactive decks game 1. It's kind of like a gotcha. And it's just because game 1, our game plan is going to be mostly just combo. Game 2, it gets a little different. But we'll talk about the sideboard soon. Got this Wall of Omens, which was normally two Wall of Omens, but now it's gone down to 1. I think it's still a great card. It's a blink target for Wall, -2 target for Saheeli, can soak up some damage. We're not running all of them, though. We're not running 2, just 1, because we're trying out Search for Azcanta. And if you're not familiar with Search for Azcanta, let me pull it up for you. So it's a flip card, but the front side is, at the beginning of your upkeep, look at the top card of your library. You may put it into your graveyard. So it's kind of like a Scry 1, but you put it into the graveyard instead of the bottom of your library. And then, if you have 7 or more cards in your graveyard, you may transform Search for Azcanta. And when it flips, it turns into a land, which again is useful. It's quote-unquote kind of a ramp in a sense, but also you can pay a blue and 2 and tap the land, and you can look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a non-creature, non-land card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. And this is great for any control deck or any deck that has a mass amount of non-creature spells, because you can keep up mana at the end of your turn, and depending on what end of your opponent's turn, and depending on what they do throughout their turn, you can activate it and just start digging for cards. Whatever you need in that situation, you try to find it. And it's this great way to gain card advantage when your opponent is maybe taking a turn off to set up something. If you're in the grind and you have a lot of mana, you definitely have a way to use it and abuse it even. So I do like Search for Azcanta in this build, especially because we're a combo control deck, right? We can find a Saheeli off the activation. We can find a Dispel to protect our combo. We can find a Verdict. We can find all these different removal spells, remands to keep the tempo game going, keep the cards flowing. Unfortunately, you can't find Snapcaster Mage, which is probably one of the best cards, but I do think Search for Azcanta is a great card, especially because I think that we're a little bit disadvantaged with this build in the grind sometimes. We have Spreading Seas, we have Feldar Guardians to gain cards and stuff, but we're not playing P and Kiran Alar, we're not playing Jace in the 4-drop slot, at least not main deck. So having some way to just churn through card advantage, I think is really important for the main deck. That could be wrong because Modern is a very punishing format. It's a very fast format. So even taking one turn off, might not be good enough. With that said, that's what we're doing here today. We're trying it. We're going to see if that opportunity cost is high enough or low enough, I guess. Then we're playing one of Lightning Helix. I think having this extra removal plus burn hate is pretty important. But other than that, it's a pretty stock list. Again, the one of Verdict. 22 lands. I'm playing 2 Colonnades today. I think the Colonnade is pretty nice. It's a great way to, in the late game, kind of push through some damage, because sometimes your opponent just disrupts your combo, and you still need a way to win. And that's what Colonnades are for. That's what Snap Bolts are for. That's what Clicks are for. Even Feldar Guardian beats. So all this comes together to have this kind of secondary win condition, especially with Search for Azcanta. And then you can start digging for more burn spells, and just trying to close that game out. So that's what I like about Search for Azcanta. Let's talk about the sideboard now. I have 2 Stony Silence because I am worried about the Affinity matchup. Look, generally we have a good matchup against Affinity with all our removal spells, but I don't think it's necessarily set in stone. no pun intended. So Stony Silence is my go-to card here for Affinity hate. We have 1 Rest in Peace because graveyard strategies are not that prevalent. Also, I tend to only side in 1 against Grixis Shadow anyways, because seeing 2 against Shadow is just it's horrible, because that's a card where every card matters in that matchup. So I want to see 1 Rest in Peace. I don't want to see more. So having 1 Rest in Peace is fine in this matchup. Celestial Purge, great card against Shadow, great card against Blood Moon, great card against Liliana. I love Celestial Purge. I think it's a really important card to have in your sideboard if you're in Jeskai colors. Blessed Alliance is great against Eldrazi, great against Shadow, great against Hexproof creatures, also great against Burn. So I think Blessed Alliance could even be up to 2 copies. I think it's one of those very versatile cards that's really important in a lot of matchups. Jace, again, is this grind engine. Also, poops on Lingering Souls a little bit with its +1 and any other go-wide strategies. But it's -2 paired with Feldar Guardian. For example, you go -2, play Feldar Guardian, blink it, -2 again. That's just crazy card advantage that is so valuable in the grind. Then we have Negate here and Dispel, kind of more counterspell package against the combo control decks in the format. Ceremonious Rejection, just a one of, but generally it'll hit Affinity and Eldrazi Tron or regular Tron. Helix as some extra burn hate. Verdict as some extra sweepers, because there's a lot of humans going around right now, a lot of merfolk, a lot of Affinity, so having an extra sweeper in the deck I think is very useful. 2 Geist of St. Traft, because I like to bring in Geist against decks that are starting to bring in a lot of removal. Like, we got to break up the combo. Okay, I'm going to side out maybe a couple pieces of the combo, bring in Geist, and then you have a couple dead cards in your hand as I beat you down with 6 damage a turn. So I like this kind of quote-unquote transformational sideboard. It's not much. I'm not running 3, but I think 2 is a good amount to see it in the matchups that you want. It doesn't have to come down on turn 3, because the decks that have a hard time interacting with this are going to be more mid-range and control decks. It's also going to be good against combo, right? It's a sometimes faster clock against combo, or at least provides you another avenue to victory. So I like Geist of St. Traft on the sideboard here. We have Anger of the Gods. Again, Dredge is not the easiest matchup. Now, Dredge has fallen out of favor recently, but it also plays as, again, this mass removal spell against, other go-wide strategies. And the exile clause can be relevant sometimes, not always, but I think having one of Anger of the Gods is definitely not bad, not bad at all. So I like that one of Anger to supplement the two verdicts that you'd probably be playing in those matchups as well. And then we have one Wear and Tear. I think Wear and Tear is really important to hit those like really weird decks that play, you know, not just like Affinity, like, oh, destroy an artifact, but and not just Blood Moon, but like there's some decks that just bring in things like, I don't know, Pithing Needle or like Ensnaring Bridge or something like that. It's this really versatile card that can hit so many different cards, and so that's why I like Wear and Tear on the sideboard. Now, if you've seen me go over a Jeskai deck list before, I probably mentioned all these cards and more. But so hopefully that didn't seem too repetitive. But in case this is your first time watching, that's my reasoning for this sideboard breakdown. And there are some cards omitted here that normally would find their way into a Jeskai sideboard. But I think with the way that our deck is configured, this is going to be one of the better ways to configure our sideboard. So with that said, thank you all for watching. We're going to jump to the first match in just a second. So stay tuned for that. And I'll see y'all very, very soon. Alright, what's up, guys? Welcome to the first match here with Jeskai Saheeli. We won the die roll, and yes, we would like to play first. Ooh, this is an interesting opener. So we have two Serum Visions, we have a Spreading Seas, and we have a Snapcaster Mage. So this is pretty good. We don't have much interaction, but ideally we can find interaction with Serum Visions. The issue is we don't know what deck we're playing against yet, so if we try to Serum Visions on turn 1, we might not know what we're digging for. With that said, I think that's a keep. Because we have two Serum Visions, maybe I can actually see Serum Visions on 1. Opponent go down to 5 cards. Not a great start for our opponent, but they go ahead and keep their hand, which is good, and they put a card on the bottom. So I'm gonna go ahead and shock. We'll start with the Serum Visions. Probably don't need the land just yet, because we'll probably find one. Opponent who's gone down to 5, I think Remand will be okay. Let's see what we're up against, though. A Spreading Seas on an opponent who has... Ooh, okay, so no Spreading Seas, because they have Wooded Foothills here. Here I'll just keep up Remand. Alternatively, I could have been a little more aggressive and played the Colonnade, but because we have no interaction in our hand, I think it's best to just keep up a counterspell. Wooded Foothills gets a Stomping Ground. I really hope this isn't like Dredge, because I will feel really, really bad for how I configured my sideboard today. Oh, okay. So it's Valakut. Interesting. Yeah, let's just take this turn to Spreading Seas our opponent's Valakut. Ooh. Yeah, let's get this down. I don't think we'll need white mana anytime soon. Remands are great in this matchup. Yeah, I'll keep Remand on top. I think Remand is a fantastic way to win the Valakut matchup. See if our opponent shocks here. If they do something like Search for Tomorrow. Nothing. Okay. So they don't really have anything on turn 4 that could really get us. So this could be a great opportunity to tap out for Saheeli. They might have something like Double Bolt, which again, would not be too scary to us. Snapcaster Mage, we already have one and we already have double Remand, so I kind of want to dig for the combo. But now we have all our colors set up. We have, yep, sure. If they have Double Bolt, again, that's really fine for me. Although I would have liked to keep that second Snapcaster Mage if they had Double Bolt. Sure, alright. So they got a double Lightning Bolt. But next turn we can try to get aggressive with Bolt Snap Bolt, assuming our opponent doesn't do anything. Alright, that's a land. It's not too bad. We can start getting aggressive here, like I said. Bolt Snap Bolt with double Remand backup can really make it difficult for our opponent to resolve one of their like Primeval Titans. So 1, 2, 3, 4 mana. So they're only gonna go up to 5 mana this turn. They might have like Farseek. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna reman. I think I'm gonna save these remans for actual payoff spells at this point. So I'm not too worried about Farseek. Another land. Let's see what our opponent wants to do here. It's interesting that our opponent used up those bolts immediately. They could have just waited till we like went for the combo, but that's all right. All right, let's start getting a clock going here, because now we need another way to win, and this is going to be that way to win. Definitely would like having that recurring damage there with Saheeli. However, the fact that our opponent is down to 2 cards already just makes it really hard for me to see how we lose this game, especially with 2 remans in hand. Maybe I should have kept that Snapcaster. I mean, Snapcaster is a Snapcaster, right? Right, our opponent goes down to 11. They'll go down to 9 next turn after we attack. Let's get a Hollowed Fountain here. We have triple red. Now we have double white to activate Colonnade. Alright, Path to Exile, not the greatest in this matchup, but hopefully we can ride to victory with these 2 remans. Again, I would have really liked to keep that Snapcaster Mage on top now. But our opponent goes down to 9. And once we get our opponent down to 6, then they're dead to Colonnade attack as well. So now that will take 1 less turn, now that they're at 8. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mana, 7 mana. They do have Scapeshift here. 4, 5. So I'd rather see a Prime Time here. Prime Time is a lot easier to answer. Ooh, Bolt. Search for Tomorrow. Yeah, that's fine. In order to be mana efficient and potentially have a kill with an untapped land, I'm going to go ahead and Bolt them. Untapped land, 1 time. 1 time. Feldar Guardian. With a Lightning Bolt in our graveyard, that does it as well. So let's go ahead and attack first. We know our opponent's hand, so they are dead. Feldar will target Snapcaster Mage. Target Lightning Bolt. Whoops, I did not mean to reveal hand there. Alright, let's go to sideboarding here. So, against Valakut, Negate is great. They might be on the Prismatic Omen build, but I can't say that for certain. So let's bring in Geist too. It's a nice fast clock. This spell is interesting, right? Because it protects the combo. And Search for Azcanta is also. So I know Wall of Omens is definitely a cut. Helix is interesting because it's burn. It closes out games. Let's cut Verdict here. Ultimately, I'm not sure Dispel is where we want to be if Bolt is like their only interaction. Unless I'm forgetting something, sometimes they run through the breach. They could be through the breach as well, but we just don't have enough information to really know. We could cut 1 Search, because this is not necessarily the way we're winning this match, so I can see cutting 1 Search. We kind of want to be aggressive here. So maybe even the second Lightning Helix is burn. That could just be totally wrong, though, because we're not winning until we're ahead, like until they're out of cards. So we're usually not burning them out. So maybe we could even cut this Helix and bring in Dispel. That gain 3 life can sometimes be relevant. It could be more relevant than these Lightning Bolts. But that 1 mana is just so efficient that it's hard to send that back. And if we're on the Geist plan, then having that extra reach can be really important too. Again, we don't quite know the build that they're on, so I think that this is okay. Let's run it back. We'll keep in 1 Dispel just as the gotcha against maybe Through the Breach or Lightning Bolt for our combo. Of course, our opponent mulling to 5 there helped us a little bit. Definitely helped us a little bit. They didn't have much ramp, so they were kind of just a slow deck, and then we could prey on them with our remands. Again, I like to keep in these Path to Exiles because of Titan. Maybe 4 is too many, although they might also be on the not Rampaging Bailoff, that other Bailoff card, whatever it is. I know we're gonna draw like 2 paths now, though. That's just how it is. Oof. We have the combo. We have a Serum Visions, and we're on the draw. I'm gonna keep that. It's greedy. It's really greedy. Looks like our opponent's probably gonna have a search. Oh, no. Ooh. Alright, so at least we have another land here, which is great. And then we can actually start keeping up remands. So if we just draw lands, that'll be great. Alright, so our opponent's 3 lands. That's another remand, so I'm inclined to just keep up remand here. Kind of remand anything, dig for lands, slow my opponent down a little bit. Yeah, I'll remand just because I'm so remand flooded and I need lands. I'll remand just about anything here. Wow, and our opponent does not play a 3rd land. So I'm gonna play it slow. I don't think there's any reason to rush. I want to find that 4th land before I go for the combo. I don't want to rely on Saheeli's Scry to get me there. Alright, that's a Geist. And there's our next land. So obviously they're keeping up Lightning Bolt here. I have no doubt in my mind that that's what they're doing here. So we could play Saheeli. The thing is, oh, I see the line. I see the line. We can play around Lightning Bolt if we hit another land off this Serum Visions, because we can alright. Hopefully they just don't draw 1 more land like right this turn, because then we can go Saheeli, keep up remand for Lightning Bolt. They're going for the land right now. Interesting. Anyways, I believe we have the combo here. Alright, we're retargeting Saheeli. Does our opponent have 0 interaction? Alright, and our opponent concedes there. Yeah, so as you saw, our opponent, I guess, kept a little bit of a greedy hand, right? They had a lot of ramp, they didn't have any natural land drops, and those natural land drops are often really important for Valakut. And we were able to put ourselves in a position where we can play around Lightning Bolt and, combo out for the win. So that was game 1 against Red Green Valakut. Hopefully you enjoyed it in this modern competitive league, and stay tuned for the, second match coming up real soon. I'll see you guys soon.